Hey, it's Breeze Harper of the Sister Vegan Project, and it is June 8th, 2016, and I am out in the Bay Area looking for housing. So remember we played this game already 9 months ago when our landlords decided to move back, and we scrambled to find a place. It was competitive, like, we'll apply to something and we'll ask the landlords or property managers, hey, what's up with our application? And they'll say something like, oh, the landlords don't want that many people living in their house, because we have 3 kids. Or, someone offered much more than what was listed. Or someone was able to pay the first year's rent upfront cash. So, that's what we're dealing with in this area. So I'm trying to check places out. We're trying to stay in the area. And yeah, I am just looking through Craigslist, and the prices are really, really inhumane and unreasonable. And it really is catered toward this new shift of the tech wealth, people who are living in San Francisco where it's even more expensive, and realizing, you know what, we don't really want to pay that much money for living here. So we're going to move to Berkeley, to Oakland, to Albany, and we can afford it because it's actually cheaper for us because we make much more money. So it's not actually unreasonable to offer a 2-bedroom apartment for like $3,800, or a 3-bedroom home for $4,500 a month to rent. So this is what we're looking at, and the prices have increased. I mean, wow, it's really, really, really difficult to find a place to live where you just won't be using your entire paycheck to live in a house or an apartment. And there's just a huge mass migration of lower middle class and working class people, families that have to leave the Bay Area. And I'm just really amazed by this, because I came out here because of this rich history of economic, racial, social justice work done by people who can't afford, these prices that the new tech wealth can afford. This rich history. And now there's just this mass exodus of people leaving who are doing that good work. And what does that mean? So what is the area going to look like? What is the area going to look like in a few years? That history is going to be oh my gosh, it's just amazing. And then I'm thinking about Richmond, which is one of the last places that one can potentially afford to live in. The Cal campus, the new global campus for UC Berkeley, is going to be built there, $16 million global campus. And I'm just thinking, because of that, I bet there's going to be mass gentrification happening there as well. So I am just frustrated. I'm not really sure what to do. I attended one of the meetings in Albany for the housing and diversity justice focus. It seems that in terms of Albany, those that have the most say and power so far are the property managers and landlords. And I look at these prices listed, whether it's Albany or the surrounding areas. I just don't understand where the person is coming from when you list something like, here's a 4-bedroom house for $8,000 a month. It's close to UC Berkeley. So they're really targeting students. And I'm thinking, if you come to Berkeley, which is the #1 most expensive college town in the USA, if you come here to study and they're targeting you and they know you really want to come here, you're taking out loans not for your education. You're taking out loans so you can somehow have housing. And just the way they're targeting and the way they're just taking opportunity on folk, it's just amazing. I mean, I sound like a broken record, but I keep on looking at the prices every day on Craigslist, and I'm blown away by this. And I'm just wondering, are there any property managers or landlords out there that really understand or care, or is it really that simple that it's just an easy way to make money? I'm just blown away by this. So we have what, 17 days to find a place. Good luck, Breeze's family. So yeah, just amazed. When we first came out here, we rented a house, for an entire house with a yard, for $1,775 a month, and that was 5 or 6 years ago. Now the same thing is $4,300. Okay, so last time I checked, rents are supposed to be increased 2 to 3% per year, right? So if you want to increase them. And I just, yeah, so I'm gonna stop my rambles and rants, but yeah, And oh gosh, so we're gonna keep on looking, and I guess the challenge is to find a place where you're next to public transportation. And if we move really, really far out, it means that we're even further away from my spouse's job, because he already has a 90-minute commute, so each way. So yeah, we only have one car, so moving further out means we have to maybe even invest in another car, and just many other things that we're going to need access to. Of course, this is a reality for many people who don't have cars, like in rural areas where there's no public transportation, where I grew up in a rural area like that, and everyone needs a car. So I'm just, yeah, that's my my rant for the day. And actually, no, that's not really a rant. It's just a critical analysis of the area. It's interesting when I go and talk to the folk that, the mass amount of people coming who are able to afford and just do this, and I'm talking to them in these certain spaces, they're completely, it's interesting, the privileged bubble that they're in, and I don't think they really understand what's going on deeply. Like, they're glad they're here, it's a great space, yeah, but I'm just wondering, when I look at that demographic collectively, it's just like it's mostly white. People are making six figures, like the combined incomes are over $200,000 a year, and what they have access to is just amazing. And I'm just wondering, do you know the history of these places? Do you care what's going on? If you are able to move out here, are you actively involved in making sure there's affordable housing? Are you actively involved in any type of systemic, fight against what's going on? Like, just what are you invested in? So, and these are mostly people who probably consider themselves liberal, but they really don't, like, I don't have those conversations with them. They're just not aware of many things, whether it's gentrification or systemic racism and issues around poverty and issues around food insecurity. It's an interesting crowd to talk to. And the mere fact that I'm usually the only Black person there when I'm in these spaces, usually restaurants or cafes, because I like to go in there and do ethnographic research of these new foodie places and spaces. So yeah, that's my observation, and just fingers crossed that something happens. It's not the worst thing in the world. I do acknowledge that I'm in a socioeconomically privileged situation where we won't be completely on the street. Like, I understand that there are people where, like, they have no place to go. So if worse comes to worse, I have to move across the country to my parents' house, or I have to move to my husband's country. Let's leave the country and move to live with his mother, stuff like that. So that's like the worst, right? So at least we have that, and there are people who don't have that. But the mere fact that has to happen, and just the mere fact that there isn't the security you need in the USA in general, regardless of your socioeconomic class status, there isn't the right to affordable and safe housing, healthcare, education, just the basics to thrive, right? So that's just the frustration that I have. And yeah, so I'm gonna try to attend another of the Albany meetings around diversity and equity in housing and see what happens. It's interesting, these meetings happen once a month, and I think up to 2 months ago they said maybe only 5 people show up for these. And the first one I went to, when I first learned about it a few months ago, there were 25 people, and they were all saying that the same thing. We're here, we're worried. Our landlords have increased our rent by 50 to 70% over 6 months. We can't afford it, we have to leave. It's just ridiculous, So all these people saying that there is obviously a problem. There's this illusion that Albany doesn't have these equity problems, but it's Albany. It's high socioeconomic class. It's 75% white, I believe, 20% Asian, and then the rest are, other folks of color. And I just don't think people in the mainstream are thinking about these things. They make huge assumptions because they are in a financially privileged space to not have to think about these things. So I'm glad that there is this diversity and equity housing group trying to figure this out. These people, mostly the people who were leading in the leadership, seem to be older white people who've lived in Albany for a while and see that something very, very immoral and inhumane is happening. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, that's what I have to say for today, and we'll see. If you hear anything in the Bay Area, preferably, my husband works in Redwood City, so something that makes sense for him to make that commute. Just let us know if you have something for a family of 4 kids and 2 adults. Just let us know. Thanks.